I've been doing marching band related activities for over 20 years. Some might call me the Michael Jordan of marching band. But I wasn't always this good at it. In fact, I was pretty gosh darn terrible at first. And that's what we're talking about today, my first ever marching band practice. So there I was, fresh out of 8th grade, beardless and wearing a beanie propeller hat, pretending that I'm not 35 years old. About to have my first practice with the Washington Township High School Marching Band. Compose a comment if you went to Township too. First thing they did was take all of the newbies into a separate room with the band director, and this was where we had the what the heck is happening meeting. Here's what the heck is happening. This was nice because I pretty much had no clue what the heck was happening. All I knew was that I liked band class in middle school, I was kinda good at the drums, and most of my band friends were doing marching band, so I figured I would do it too. Best choice ever, because now I do this as a career. So in this meeting, they discussed all of the accomplishments and how awesome the band was to get us all hyped up and hopefully not quit after the first practice. And they also mentioned in this meeting that the indoor percussion ensemble ranked number 5 in the world. Oh man. And this blew my mind because, like, how lucky was I? I was about to go to the school that had the top 5 drumline in the whole world. Well, I came to find out that that's not exactly accurate. Township came in 5th place in WGI World Championships for the Scholastic A class. Now, don't get me wrong, that is a huge accomplishment. However, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily the 5th best drumline in the whole world. Because all of the Scholastic Open and Scholastic World groups, they are technically better in terms of what they can play difficulty-wise. But I didn't care about or understand any of that. I was pumped up and ready to go, so away we went to meet up with the drum instructors for our first ever practice. The first thing they asked all of the newbie drummers was if they wanted to do drumline or pit. Now, I had no clue what pit was, but I did know what drumline was, okay? I saw the Nick Cannon movie like 4 times prior to this. I knew exactly what I was getting myself into, so I chose that. I eventually realized that pit was just a fancy word for the stationary percussion that played up in the front, like an orchestra pit. I could have probably figured that out if I actually thought about it, but, well, I was a clueless little 14-year-old. I didn't know how to think. Come on. And this is where they asked us if we wanted to play snare, tenor, or bass drum. Well, we all know what my favorite drum ended up being, but at the time of this choice, the only reference I really had was what we played in concert band in middle school, and the snare drum part was almost always the hardest and most fun part to play, and also Drumline the movie really glorified the snare drum. So I picked the snare drum, and by some miracle I didn't get cut. I actually made it onto snare and marched my whole rookie season on the snare drum. But it was not easy. I found out very, very quickly that this was gonna be extremely difficult. So they plopped the snare drum on me, and I thought my spine was gonna snap in half. Oh, this is so heavy! Why did nobody tell me this would be the heaviest thing ever? So I whip out my 5A drum set sticks from my back pocket, and I got shut down real quick with that because you're supposed to use marching sticks on a marching drum. I didn't know that until then. I had never held marching sticks before, and these felt like big tree trunks in my tiny little hands. It was very, very awkward. And on top of all that, I had to change my left-hand grip to the traditional grip. I had never heard of the traditional grip in my life. This felt just so uncomfortable, and the drum instructor was trying to work with me to get me to figure out how to turn my left hand, but all I could think about at the time was just how much my back hurt and how heavy this drum was. Ah, my back is killing me! Oh. So then we started learning some of the exercises, starting with legatos. Most of you marching drummers are probably very familiar with legatos, also known as 8 on a hand. However, the Washington Township High School 2003 legatos was quite a bit different. It was actually 12 on a hand, then 11 on a hand, then 8 on a hand, then 10 on a hand, and then 3 on a hand, and somehow I still remember that. A lot of people were really struggling to count through these time signature changes and not get lost, but I was actually doing okay with it. I guess, like, I've been counting since I was a small child. I was like a counting pro by that time. I also remember we started learning a triplet rolls exercise, and I thought that the slash notation, like to mark a diddle, I thought that meant to buzz each of those notes. So that's what I was doing for a while until I eventually figured out that that was supposed to mean double strokes. I think collectively as a line we were just so insanely dirty in that first rehearsal that I couldn't tell what type of roll it was supposed to be. But I got the hang of it eventually, and I'm pretty proud of myself for that. You know, after a bunch of years of teaching marching band, I know now that it is a very difficult thing for a lot of kids to figure out how to play triplet rolls. But I was doing pretty good. You know, if I had the opportunity to teach myself, I would have probably enjoyed that. I think I just invented a new type of paradox right there with that thought. I think that's why I didn't get cut from the snare drum. Even though my left hand was completely jacked up and my back was killing me, I could barely hold the drum up, at least I could, you know, figure out how to play rhythms pretty well and pick up on things quickly. Big brain chops right there. Although I wish my back was as big as my brain because I was dying at this point. But we weren't done yet. This is marching band rehearsal after all, so we had to do some marching, and we covered all the basics in the first rehearsal, step-offs, calf raises, all that good stuff. And then we started doing the 8 to 5 steps across the field. All a few marching band kids know all about that. So of course we did them going forwards first, and I was fine with that. You know, it's basically just walking with style. But moving in all of the other directions, that was a complete disaster for me. I was just a complete uncoordinated mess of a person trying to march backwards and sideways. And the weight of the drum pulling down was making this even harder and more uncomfortable. I really didn't expect to be as bad as I was going into this rehearsal because I'd been playing sports my whole life up to this point, but I guess all the running and swimming and biking and all that does not translate over to marching band. Finally, this practice was over. My back was absolutely killing me, and I also had bruises all over my thighs because I kept resting the rim of the bottom head onto my leg to take the weight off of my back. Ow, my legs! Oh, this is the most difficult thing a human being can possibly do. I was just so glad to get out of there and go home and rest. And most kids would probably have quit after that experience, but I didn't. I was ready for the challenge. And also, all of my friends would have made fun of me if I said band was too hard. And it's a good thing I did, because I went on to do great things. I marched a bunch of years in drum corps and WGI and also in the Marine Corps. And now I'm all super strong and stuff, and I make some of the heaviest instruments in the world just for fun, and I don't complain about them being heavy ever. Ow, my back! This is difficult. And we're done. Oh, get this off of me. Oh my goodness. But most importantly, I figured out how to turn my left arm in traditional grip. Compose a comment below and let me know how your first day of band was. Click here for more Storytime videos, and have a good morning.